Hey guys, Frozen X is here, and this time I'm going to be talking about incursions and what they're going to be. I'm going to cut right into just some gameplay for you to watch, but just take a look at what you see on screen right now. It's the last stronghold, and mission rewards is a set item, and the minimum required gear grade is 150. So just keep all those things in account while I just talk about, various things about what incursions will be, what information Ubisoft has released, and I'm going to speculate a little bit. But without any further ado, let's get into it. Incursions, at first, a lot of people thought they'd be a survival type game mode, and I think the vast majority, though, knew what they were going to be, which is raids. In any MMO, you have to have raids, bosses that are extremely difficult. You have to work as a team and learn certain tactics about the boss before you're able to do it. This game was extremely lacking in endgame content because of the lack of raids. In every MMO I've ever played, they've had raid bosses where you get a bunch of people together and you have to take on the boss. Surprisingly, though, Ubisoft has confirmed that it will only be a 4-person team, so I thought it was going to be more or less 8 or possibly 10 to 12 people, which is, still a small raid even for this game, considering Destiny raids are, I believe, 20 to 25 people. World of Warcraft can be anywhere from like 50 to 100. So, yeah, 4 people, just a regular squad, which leads me to believe this is going to be a very similar to a challenge mode type mission, except you're going to have to do certain things at certain points in the boss battle to avoid damage or avoid squad wiping. The difficulty is set on hard. I'm sure that's going to be challenging, or what they mean by that is challenging, because they're not going to make this easy. The bosses are probably going to be the hardest bosses that you'll have to fight in the game. It will probably well, I can guarantee it'll reward the best items in the game. That's how raids work. And I'm going to assume that they're going to have a limit on how many you can do. That way you can't just sit there and kill the raid boss over and over again with a group of people. It might get limited to 1 or 2 kills a day. They might even limit it to just so many a week, like how World of Warcraft did theirs. But the next thing I want to talk about is the minimum required gear grade, and if you check in your inventory right now, you can look anywhere, and if you can find a gear grade, well, good for you, but I can't. I don't think it's something they've implemented yet. So this leads me to believe that in the next update, with including incursions, they're going to be releasing either an update to the gear that you currently have, or they're going to be releasing a new set of gear. What I mean by that is they're going to release the same gear there is, but you're going to have to get gear with grade levels or somewhere along those lines. Personally, I believe that they're going to just change it so all gear has a specific grade to it. Now, how they're going to determine this grade is really up to a lot of speculation. Is it going to be done by your damage, or firearm stamina and electronic skill, or is it going to be done on what items you have, etc., etc.? There's a lot of different ways they can calculate gear grade. So there's not too much to say about that other than just keep trying to get the best gear you can now, because most likely it will be updated to give you a specific gear grade in the near future, as this update's coming out next month. So the next thing on the list is set items. In the Division, they don't have any sets yet. It's just pick up the best gear you can find. Sets generally indicate a gear that when you have more than one piece of it, you start getting bonus abilities. Like in World of Warcraft, when you get a full gear set, you get a plus whatever. I'm assuming it's going to be somewhere in this. Get 2 pieces of the set, get plus, something in firearms, 3, then you get firearms and stamina, 4, you get firearms, stamina, and electronics, and then, so on and so forth. They'll just keep adding on, different bonuses for having a full set, and it'll give you something to do in the end game to keep working towards something that will take you a long time, because you'll probably realize that there will be tons and tons of sets. I'm assuming they're gonna, well, I shouldn't say tons and tons. I'm assuming they're gonna have at least 4 or 5 sets, which would seem kind of low, but there's not really set roles in this game because of the way they did the skill system. So I would assume that there will be 4 or 5 sets, each of them doing something different, probably one focusing more towards damage, one focusing more towards health, one electronics, and then a couple that, are either firearms and health, or firearms and electronics, or stamina, etc., etc. There's tons of combinations that could go into these sets, and what it will do is give you something to keep working towards, you're probably not going to want to obtain every set, but you'll most likely want to get one or two, one for like raids and one for Dark Zone PvP, because let's face it, the gear that you will be using for incursions will be different than your Dark Zone gear. You're not going to want to go into an incursion with the builds that I've talked about before, because they're going to be extremely hard. They're going to kill you really quickly. You're going to need to focus your skills all across firearm, stamina, and electronics evenly, because let's face it, in challenge mode, you need to have your skills up every second they pop, because it's very, very crucial that you have that extra ability. Like throwing down a turret just creates another thing for enemies to shoot at that they have to deal with, or a seeker mine that gasses enemies, can make them move cover. And all these things will really help you out in incursions, so I would assume that you're probably going to want to use different armor than you normally have for Dark Zone PvP. Now, that brings me to my next thing, and that's how much information they've released about this. The only thing they've really done recently is they did change the name. I can't remember for the life of me what it used to be called, but recently it was changed to Last Stronghold. And what this means is that they're almost done with it, in my opinion. They wouldn't, change the name of it and start getting things ready if they weren't ready to release it in the near future. I'm assuming we're going to see this update hit, the first week or two of April, because if they're releasing it late April, it's not going to leave them a lot of time to work on their May update that they promised, because they said they're going to have a free update in April, free update in May, and then in June, that's when Expansion 1 is launching, which will be a paid expansion if you have the Season Pass, which is, I think, $60. I have yet to buy it, so I'm not sure. A Season Pass will include all the expansions for, I think, at least this year. I don't know if it'll include all the expansions for the life of the game. I highly doubt it, because they're probably going to be working on this game for the next 2 to 3 years, at a minimum. I mean, you don't just make an MMO and then abandon it. You will never get people to buy or buy another MMO from you again if you just make the game, release a couple free updates and a couple expansions, and then just say you're done. Everyone will just quit playing the game before they even finish the second expansion, because they'll realize, well, after this expansion, there's nothing to do, so why the hell am I wasting my time on an MMO? And as you know, MMOs are a very time-intensive game, so you don't ever want to be at a point where, oh, well, there's nothing left to do. Well, fuck this. And games like World of Warcraft have done a great job at that, because getting all the best gear and all that on every different kind of class, yeah, good luck. It's not going to happen. You can keep trying, but by the time you get even probably 4 full sets on 4 characters, next expansion's out. So I'm hoping Ubisoft will do something similar, where you can't just get every set and every good gun and you can just keep switching on and off between your favorite stuff. You have to more or less dedicate yourself to a certain set, and you have to work towards getting that set, and it'll lead to everyone using unique things rather than everyone just being able to switch on and off, and kind of making this weird gameplay where everyone can do everything. I like how they created the skills where you don't have to go as a specific class, but at the same time, I feel like it's really holding the game back from player individuality. I feel like every player is just it's like Battlefield. Everyone's pretty much the same. It's just the only difference between players is who has more high-end gear and what's better, and that just makes a really unfortunate time for PvP, because if everyone is just picking up the best gear to do the most damage and have the most health, and no one's like building anything else or wanting to be a sniper primarily because SMGs are just so good in the game, then what's the point of having all those snipers in the game that you can get from the Dark Zone when everyone's just going to run around with a Vector anyway? Regardless, sets should make it so, you can build a sniper set that if you have a full sniper set, and you go up against a guy with an SMG who doesn't have an SMG set or something like that, you should win. That's how that should work. If you've invested that time, it makes sense, but if you watch my problems with the Dark Zone video, you'll understand what I mean by player grouping, and that someone with a full set of gear should never end up fighting someone who doesn't have any parts to any set, and I really hope by this next update they work on that, because currently the Dark Zone is just shared between every player, and a level 99 Dark Zone player who has full high-end everything, been playing the game since the day came out and just done this non-stop, he will just wreck you, and there's nothing you can do about it. He will win the fight every time, and that just makes for terrible, terrible PvP. And currently, the Dark Zone to me is broken. It as if sorry about that. If we're continuing to fight players that are well outside of my battle range, I don't know, really know what to call it, but you know what I mean. You just can't be fighting players that are 100 times better than you in PvP. That's not how any other MMO works, and Ubisoft needs to look into that. So, Incursions, there's not too much information released about it. There are speculations that there will be a tank battle in it. I don't know how true this will be or not. I know Jack Frags made comments about how he thought there should be a battle where, oh, there's a tank and you have to, hit the tank with RPGs every so, like, just the RPG pops, you have to get the RPG, hit the tank, and, like, move cover to cover because it's trying to blow up the cover, and eventually the guy gets out of the tank and then you have to fight him. I think that's a really good idea. I don't know if that's what they're going to go with, because as far as tanks go, I'm assuming that a raid boss is going to have special abilities. Things where, say, he gets to half health, and then, I don't know, all of a sudden he shoots rockets everywhere, like, or a bunch of mines just drop, or a bunch of mines go off, or a bunch of grenades just drop, or something like that, where at a specific points in the fight, it requires you to move, be coordinated as a team, and figure out how to get through that situation. Because, when a first raid boss comes out in any MMO, the first few groups are going to spend, 10 times dying over to it, just trying to figure out the mechanics of the boss. And that's part of the fun of raid bosses. You have to learn the mechanics and learn how to do it. You can't just go into it with really good gear and wreck everything. And it makes players want to cooperate more, because you'll more than likely at first end up in a group where only one guy knows the mechanics, and you have to listen to that guy, listen to his call out, say, like, okay, we need to move to this corner at whenever he starts doing this. Those kind of things. They make really interesting raids, and I really hope Ubisoft implement some kind of feature like that. So the other information they have yet to reveal, though, should be coming out next Tuesday. Now, I don't know if it's next Tuesday for sure, but they have made a statement saying they are going to release a lot more information regarding Incursions on a stream. So, that led me to just look up when the stream was going to be, and several websites said that if you go to the Ubisoft Twitch, or I believe it's Twitch, it could be another streaming website, I'm not sure, it just says see you Tuesday. So, I mean, that's really close to see you next Tuesday, so I don't know if Ubisoft's trying to call us a cunt or what, but I'm assuming they mean Tuesday, the March 29th, where that would be, today's Friday, yeah, today's Friday, thank God. It's just like man, I can't count days for shit, that's 4 days, I'm retarded, which is 4 days from now, and, I would assume that they're going to release the information then, because like I said, if they release information the Tuesday in April, they're going to have to release the update either the second or third week, and personally, if they're releasing an update in May, I'm assuming they're wanting to release both updates like in the first 2 weeks of each month. That way, they keep their player base, because right now the player base is slowly dying off. People are hitting level 50 in the Dark Zone and just saying, okay, there's nothing else to do. I'm going to go back to Battlefield or DayZ for me, and other things that they'll just do in the meantime until the updates come out. So they probably want to get their player base back, give them something that'll keep their attention for a month, then release the next free update, which will keep them entertained even longer, and by that point, they'll have invested so much time in the game, they'll absolutely want to buy the first expansion pack. It's a great marketing strategy if they execute it on time, that is. I have a feeling that one of these updates may end up getting delayed, because 2 consecutive big updates each month after another, that's a big task, and I'm not saying Ubisoft can't do it, but I'm just saying I'm a little doubtful because of Ubisoft's track record in the past. Regardless, they have spent a lot of money developing this game, and this has also been the biggest launch they've ever had, and this game has actually surpassed Destiny in sales. So I don't think Ubisoft is sparing any expense on their updates, so it leads me to just want to give them the benefit of the doubt up until these Incursions come out. Depending on how well these are done, will really make my mind on whether or not I'm going to be buying the Season Pass, because I haven't bought it yet, and if Incursions come out and they're just crappy, it's just another mission with a boss that's just another generic boss, it might really impede on whether or not I'm going to buy the season pass, because I don't want to just have another named boss that you run through a mission, do this, that, and the other thing, and then it's just another guy where he has a lot of armor and you gotta shoot him just a fuck ton, and that's all the boss fight is. They've done a pretty good job in that manner, but they need to make something else. Okay, you're just the way they oriented their game now is what a lot of people are saying is how Diablo is oriented. Now, I don't like that because I quit Diablo pretty much right once I got done with my second or third playthrough, but you just keep playing through the game over and over again in Diablo, and that's kind of how I feel the Division is beginning to look like it's going to be. In the very beginning, I said, okay, this game does a really unique job of making each encounter and side mission feel unique because you're in a different scenario, different map, different building placement, etc., etc. But once you get to the end game content, all they did was make it so encounters and side missions are completely useless to you other than to finish off your base. The main missions that are dailies literally don't change at all. The enemies are in the same placement, they come through the same doors, everything is the exact same every playthrough. So if they make something that's just even a little bit different, just make a couple raid bosses, and I know this first update's only going to include one, but just a couple unique raid bosses that are something different than just, oh, go through, kill all these guys, and then kill the boss, just shoot them a lot. If the raid bosses are really unique and you have to learn mechanics for each of them, you have to have, a team that's geared a certain way. Maybe you need to have mobile cover. Maybe you need to have a defibrillator. I don't know how they'd implement that, but it would make sense for you to have like one player who has certain abilities, or just make every player balance abilities, so you end up having to use things you normally wouldn't use, and it makes the game more interesting. Now, with all that being said, there's not really much else to say about Incursions other than I do believe that there will be regular guns and gear added. I do feel there's a giant lack of guns in the game right now. They've kind of really limited themselves to almost about like 10 to 15 usable guns in the game when they have probably 50 different variants in the game. So I see them adding another 10 to 15 guns, as well as rebalancing all of the guns in the game. Because let's face it, right now LMGs are underpowered as shit. They really need a buff. SMGs really need a debuff. And I think snipers are done pretty well. It's just that SMGs right now are so fucking good that everyone is just running around with a Vector in the dark zone. So that's pretty much everything I have for the Incursion video. I hope you guys enjoyed this. Let me know if I missed anything or if you disagree with anything. And I hope you guys have a great day. Peace out.